Hello and welcome back to my Dandelion Diaries. We are officially starting week 2 of Inkmas. So exciting. I'm really hoping we get a better color today. I was very disappointed with yesterday's color, but let's go ahead and open the door for day 8 and see what we get. Looks like today's ink is called Marley, which is very fitting for my writing samples. And it says this is a standard ink. So let's go ahead and swatch this out and see what Marley looks like. Ooh, okay. Initial thoughts on this one. I honestly love it. It might be because it's like super shading in front of me as it dries, but I'm a fan. I honestly thought this was going to be more of like a tealy gray color because that's what the sticker on the bottle is. But swatching it on the Tomoe Sanzen paper and the Wearingeul swatch card, it's purple gray. But the shading goes to like a pinkish color and it's got like this blue halo thing going on. Very cool, very dynamic. The only thing is with this ink, I'm pretty sure I have a few that look like this. So I'm going to be really interested to see what I have that compares to Marley. But I do want to talk a minute about flow because when I was writing with this in the dip pen just now for the Wearingeul swatch card, oh my goodness, this thing was juicy. Okay, so really excited for the lubrication on this ink and hopefully it continues that way in a pen. For the sake of my sanity, I'm not inking any pens for the Inkvent, so I'm only going to be using the dip pens for my writing samples and stuff, but it gives me hope for when I do ink this in a pen that it will behave very nicely. But let me go ahead and break out my swatch book and do some comparisons. Okay, so for the sake of comparing this ink, I'm going to go through several different color families. I really do think this fits firmly in gray for me just because it's definitely like a gray purple, but it could also fit in purple. But for me personally, I would categorize this as gray. So I'm going to start with the grays and then we're also going to look at the purples and maybe even the pinks, but let's see what I got here. Already right off the bat, I feel very close that Diamine Earl Grey is very similar. I think Marley is a bit more pink. It definitely has similar shading to me though. So Earl Grey might be a bit darker and Marley might be a bit lighter, but they're both kind of like a pink purpley lean. It doesn't really compare to either of those. Oh wow, okay, dead on ringer, at least in terms of this paper. The 𝗤𝗏𝗄𝗃𝗄𝗃 is very, very close in color, very close. It's also similar to Palette Rochizuku's 𝗤𝗏𝗄𝗃, which recently got discontinued this year, which I'm so mad about, but it's a story for another time. 𝗤𝗏𝗄𝗃 does have a pink undertone, and the Marley definitely has a strong pink undertone. I do think the 𝗤𝗏𝗄𝗃 is much more gray and definitely a lot darker, at least in terms of the gray making it darker, but Marley does have that kind of like pinky gray look to me, same as the 𝗤𝗏𝗄𝗃. Let's see what else we got. This is interesting. It's kind of close to Birmingham Pen Company's Pennsylvania Fieldstone. Pennsylvania Fieldstone definitely shades differently on different papers, so keep that in mind, which Marley might do the same thing, but they're very close in that they're both kind of like a pinky gray color, and they're almost the same, I guess, toner level, saturation. I don't really know what to call it right now. My words are escaping me, but it's very similar in terms of the light to dark scale. Like they're both kind of like a middle range in terms of the grayish color. Nothing really else on that page is speaking to me. Okay, it is dead on last year's Lavender Frost without shimmer. I'm sorry. Like if we cover up the shimmer and we just look at writing with writing, that is the exact same color. The exact same color. Wow. That's interesting. I do think the shading is definitely more prominent in Marley. They're different inks. Clearly they're different inks, but it's just the writing looks so close to Lavender Frost. Really, really close. It's also very similar to Robert Oster's Polar Vortex, in that it's kind of like that purpley gray. Marley is still a bit more pink and Polar Vortex is still a bit more purple, but they're very close and they both have kind of cool shading. Okay. Oh, okay. It's kind of close to one of the newer inks that I was sent by Georgia. Collection Traced Wushan Misty Mountain is kind of like a lighter version of Marley. The Misty Mountain is also a little bit more blue looking. And it's also very close to Colorverse 𝗦𝘃𝗎, but 𝗦𝘃𝗎 is a little bit more purple and a little bit lighter, I feel. But kind of cool to see those together, actually. Okay, let me pull out my purples and see if we got anything there. Okie dokie. So, for the purples, I honestly feel like it's kind of like Robert Oster's Black Violet, but Black Violet is much darker. It's also kind of close to Robert Oster's Sydney Lavender. Sydney Lavender is still a bit more purple and a bit darker, but they're kind of close in tone. Interesting. It's also close to Birmingham Pen Company's Armadillo, which makes a lot more sense in terms of comparison. Armadillo is a bit more of like a magenta gray, maybe even purple gray, if you will. And Marley is purple gray / magenta gray because it does have that pink tone with it. Kind of interesting to see that's a dupe. So if you weren't ever able to get a hold of Birmingham Pen Company's Armadillo, these may be really good to compare side by side. And if you have both, like I do, maybe report back to me and see what we get. Okay, let's see what else we got. None of these are really super gray, so they're hard to compare. These are a lot more stronger with the purple. Okay, it's kind of similar to Sailor Urameku's Yoi. Again, Sailor Urameku inks tend to have a different color depending on the paper you're using, but with the Sarasara paper, it is very close to the Marley. So there's that. It's kind of close to Three Oysters Purple Gray, but the purple gray is much darker and a bit more blue undertoned or purple undertoned. Marley still is a little bit more pink. Oh, okay. It's almost a dead exact match for Bungbox's Tipsy Mood. I'd say Marley is slightly more pink with the shading, but the writings samples, like the writing names, I guess, next to each other are very, very close. Okay, I do want to try one more color family, and that is the magentas. I really don't think I'm going to have anything, but I just want to see for my own purposes here if I have anything that's remotely close. And that's going to be a no. Okay, yeah. I'd say probably closest thing to me with this is the Sailor, I think it was Kongyo, but let me double check. Yeah, I think Sailor Kongyo is probably the closest. And after that, it's probably going to be Birmingham Pen Company's Armadillo. Because I do think Pennsylvania Fieldstone is close, but I think Armadillo is a little bit closer. But yeah, I think that's all I got for comparisons with Marley. Let me do a writing sample and see what this looks like in a full page. And here we have that writing sample, and I like it. I actually quite enjoy this ink. It really does remind me a lot of Birmingham Pen Company's Armadillo. Yeah, I would say this is a pretty good dupe for that ink if you were never able to try it or you want to try something really similar. It's really nice. I do think it would be a bit light in some extra fine nibs, maybe some Japanese extra fine nibs, but I do think the shading saves this ink and makes it very legible with anything else. And if you like to draw or paint with inks, this is such a cool one because it does have that kind of crazy shading thing going on. Here is the main swatch after it dried down on the Tomoe reverse Sanzen paper here. Really love all the shading. It's absolutely gorgeous, and I'm really happy with the writing sample as well, and that it's legible and it has some cool shading things going on. Anyways, that is all for day 8 for Diamine. Stay tuned for Colorverse, which should be uploading shortly after this one. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and be blessed. Bye.